What's going on, everybody? I am Ron Sneller here with a great friend and colleague of mine, Brennan Hayden. Brennan, what's going on, man?
Hey, just working hard, making a living, buddy.
Working hard, making a living.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have time for ties. It cuts the blood off to my brain. I don't know how you do it.
Well, throughout this podcast, I'll probably lose a suit coat, maybe the tie, probably keep the shirt on. Probably.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do a couple of just standard disclaimers and then jump into this discussion. So first of all, we're going to be talking about a lot of topics. So anything that we do end up talking about today that travels down the financial lane, it's to be taken only as education. It's not to be construed as specific financial advice for any listener's particular scenario. So if we do end up discussing something that interests you, it's very important that you work with either Brennan or myself or your financial professional directly to make sure that you are implementing the strategies and solutions into your financial life correctly for your specific scenario. Right?
But I can give you some advice too, right? I can give you some, as a brother.
You can give me some life advice. You're my life coach.
Okay. So my first advice is write some complicated stuff on your whiteboard there behind you. See, it's like blank. It's like you need some like formulas and
like Einstein, E equals MC squared.
Maybe,
Okay. I'll
lots
take
of dollar signs with arrows going over here and pictures of like flowers and trees and houses.
Yeah.
Office building, something,
Cool. Oh, and then another thing is, I'm going to be pumping up my guest, and he might even say some nice things about me, but nothing that we say today is to be construed as a testimonial. So as we talk back and forth, it's not a testimonial.
I feel like I should be taking notes.
Yeah. No, that's it. So first thing, let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you and I came to work together, because I think it's hilarious. So up until recently, Brennan and I, we worked on the same team for the same company. And I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I can't really reach in this coat, but I actually recruited you into the business. So, I mean, you did all the work, but I'd like to take just like a 1% credit for any of the good things that you bring into the universe. The people that you help with their retirement planning or like life insurance or disability insurance, like in a way, I'm ultimately responsible for that. It's like when you drop a stone into a lake, it's like that ripple effect. So I feel like that's an awesome thing about our business.
The truth is that I just followed you around like a little puppy and watched what you did, and then I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of in my own way.
Well, look, dude, you're
obviously
obviously
much too grave and serious. Left to my own devices, I'd probably have to give a disclaimer for psychological counseling when I sit down with folks, because I was too inclined to get too grave, too serious and everything. And, you were like, hey, you're not going to die today. You didn't say that, but that was kind of like your attitude. It's like, we're talking about life insurance and financial stuff. Let's just, it's fun. We're just got an hour. Let's talk about some stuff. You want to do some stuff? Great. Let's do it. If not, we'll just move on with our day. Maybe next time. That was your attitude. I never would have discovered that attitude. And it didn't come across as laissez-faire because you knew your stuff. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about that because, the education requirements of this industry have not always been what they are today, but They are essential. You have to feed your brain with knowledge every day.
Absolutely. Well, I think another funny.
You're right. You get the credit.
Well, another funny thing about this story, and you do bring it up from time to time, and you say, "Hey, Ron, remember there was a time that you didn't want to hire me? Like you weren't sure if you wanted to offer me a contract." And I kind of chuckle. What was your perspective on that situation? Then I'll share mine.
Actually, I didn't know that.
Well, you talk about how Pat Brumley and I kind of gave you a hard time, like as you were coming in.
You guys wondered if I had the chops. Yeah, I still hear Pat. Maybe Pat will be listening. Pat sits with me, and he's a Texas boy. I'm from Kentucky, so we kind of had that rapport going on. So he was like, "Are you sure you have the intestinal fortitude to make the calls and cover the territory.
Yeah.
And I was like, Pat, do you have any idea what it's like to do a tech startup, build the product, sell it, sell the company? This is kid stuff as far as intestinal fortitude. That's why I felt, and honestly, that's kind of the way it's played out. I'm not saying it's good. I say this is the hardest job I've ever done from just the sheer volume of work and concentration or whatever, but it gives back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but from a life impact, it's, the yoke is easy and the burden is light, as they say.
Yeah.
And you of course get the double entendre there, but it's a great, it's a great career. So, but yeah, but it does take some intestinal fortitude. Yeah, you gotta like the grind. You gotta like the grind, because
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing coming from my end, when I first interviewed you, it was like, all right, listen, so I'm the manager here. I'm in charge of making the hiring decisions and training this guy. And the fact of the matter is, you're about 15 years my senior. You have some great experience. You're a tech entrepreneur. I think you've been a former CFO, an engineer. You have your MBA. You've been all over the world. I mean, you were on the team that sent the first text message in the United States. And so we're going to come back to that because that's a really cool and interesting story. But my point being was like, all right, this guy has all of this experience, but I'm the man when it comes to this agency, this territory, this business. Is he going to be coachable? Is he going to be coachable? Right. And so and so you're like a mid-level or midlife career changer. Is he going to come here and is he going to learn? Right. And so that's just something we deal with in our industry. And then the other thing, and this is just like a personality thing, what really struck me is that you are so genuine and you are so sincere. And the first time I met you, honestly, I didn't know how to take that. I thought to myself,
I remember you saying that.
I thought to myself, is this guy just a brown noser and he's just trying to be super nice and sniff my butt? What's this dude's deal? But in our industry's process, we don't make a quick hiring decision after one or two interviews. You and I formed a relationship over several months of talking back and forth because it's really more like business partners than it is like boss and employee. And I just came to realize this guy's one of the most sincere, genuine people I've ever met in my life. We became very good friends. But from my angle, that was a thing. What's up with this dude's personality? For one, is he just a huge brown noser? And then for two, is he going to be coachable? So Pat and I said, look, on paper, this guy's got everything it takes to be a superstar here in this business. And it was just look, let's just challenge him. Let's just see if he wants to just dip his toe in the water for something to do, or is it something he's going to be really serious about? So I think that's where Pat asked you the question, do you have the intestinal fortitude, so on and so forth. It obviously worked out. I mean, you set an agency record for an amount of business submitted in your third month on the team. You're still a newbie and you set a record for submitting 20 new applications in.
So let me ask you a question on there. Is that okay? So August was weak, my first month, August 1st. So yeah, I'm on my 2-year mark here. So,
yeah.
So August 2018 was weak. All right. September was weak. Remember? You had to reach a certain point your first 3 months to even be considered real.
Right.
And I was only 25% of the way there. What were you thinking? What were you thinking?
We had a lot in the pipeline. We had a lot of people that we had talked to, and it's not it's not the old school model. You go sit at someone's kitchen table and high pressure pitch them right there and sit at their table for 3 hours till they buy something. It's consultative, and we did some good business. So there was one appointment that led to a second appointment that led to a third appointment. And then, the application came in. So some of the sales process was 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I wasn't concerned.
But I was still scared because, hey, I had to set a record. Now I overshot the goal, but I remember our buddy Joe Abbott, I came in, right? And I was it was the 2nd of October. And I'm like, how far I got to go? I got to do 4 times as much this month than I did the previous 2 months combined. And you know what? This is probably you talk about ripples, Joe, Mr.
Yeah.
Confident,
Mr. Three-Pointer. Yeah.
Mr. Three-Pointer. He just looked at me and he asked me a couple questions. I don't even remember what they were. And he goes, "You'll make it." And from that point on, I wasn't scared. From that point,
I think
from that
Joe,
point on, I was like, okay, well, Ron thinks I can make it. Joe thinks I can make it. I guess I can make it. So, I hit the bricks, man.
Speaking of which, I texted a few people from the old team and let them know that we were doing this. And Joe said he's going to try to get on and watch some of this. So he might have just seen that. So yeah, there's a ripple effect that Joe had on your early career.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then 2019, so last calendar year, was your first full year. You hit all of your goals, all of your marks. You qualified for the company incentive trip, which is a huge accomplishment. Unfortunately, it was canceled due to COVID this year. But you hit the accomplishment. And this year, to my knowledge, you are leading your company, #1 field agent in Michigan. Is that still correct?
Oh yeah.
How does it feel, and what did it take to get there?
Well, it's funny.
Putting you on the spot, man.
The funny thing is, it's almost like, I don't know what analogy to make. It feels good, but it's almost like free, because it's like, it's not this sort, like, I don't really feel like I'm good yet. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I'm underperforming by about 60-70%. So it makes me excited. I don't feel like it. I know it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it makes me excited for the future. The second thing is, it makes me relax a little more, because I know that, that the numbers speak for themselves, Yeah. Somebody texted me, said, "Hey, you're having a great month." And I was like, I forget how it went. Anyway, so somebody was asking me, did that make you feel good to be told you're having a great month? And I was like, I like the camaraderie and everything, but it's like, if the numbers say you're having a good month, you're having a good month, regardless of what anybody says to you. And if the numbers say you're having a bad month, you're having a bad month, regardless of whether somebody tells you you're having a good month. Now, it's nice when you're down to have somebody to help you build up. But once when you're sailing, once you start succeeding, it's really about you and yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you start to kind of get to the tippy top of that advice you've been getting from your mentors. You're starting to come up with innovations of your own and things like that. So I guess it feels good, but I like to guard that hunger. I like to protect that. Okay, this is just the beginning type feeling, not, oh, I've achieved something. Mm-hmm. That's a long-winded way of saying that. That thing I just said at the end, that's what I mean.
Okay. So today's August 6th. You've already submitted like 10 applications or something for the month, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I'm so proud of you. You're just like, you're awesome. And the thing that one thing that makes you really unique is that your brain works like an engineer and your numbers focused. But here's the thing, just traditionally speaking, no engineers, please get mad at me, but let's just face the facts. Engineers aren't really known for their personality and being like people. You are. And I think that's what makes you so good, is like in the background, when you're not with your clients, that's when like the analytical Brennan Hayden comes in. That's when you study. That's when you put together proposals and plans and programs and how you're going to help them. But when you are with people, you are so focused on them and helping them meet their needs and being a friend and an advocate for them. And I think both of those elements coming together is what makes your practice so powerful and why you're so successful. And it's really a unique blend of talent.
Well, thanks for saying that. I somehow ended up in engineering school because I was good at math. Mm-hmm. And because I got a high score on my PSAT. So University of Louisville sent me a full scholarship in 1980. And I was a sophomore in high school. So I didn't even think about doing anything but going to Louisville, and they had a good engineering school, and I was good at math at the end.
Yeah.
But I was always selling, so but once you get on that train of being a technical like engineer, the pay is so good, and you get paid whether the salesman gets paid, and that is attractive to somebody, to a young person and everything. But there isn't any do-overs or wishes or whatever. But if there's anybody young listening, you know, if you're building your career and there's something that you're afraid to do, but you know that you should, just do it. Just do it. Because you'll make it. I'm not saying something that just pops into your head one day, but if it's something that's just living with you week after week and year after year, and you're saying, hey, I got to do this, then I would say just do it. Now, I think if I'd become a quota salesman earlier in my career, I would have enjoyed it and would have had, an incrementally, excuse me, an incrementally better situation now, although I got a pretty good situation. But I mean, I just cannot believe how much I like the job and how much I'm not afraid of the quota and the production requirements.
So
now, maybe
what does it feel like comparing the two careers? I mean, obviously there's some similarities, but on the surface level, it's very, very different. So,
well, there's my role and there's industry, so I changed both at the same time. But
yeah, okay.
I can tell you that just from the overall business experience, tech is sort of like a ready, fire, aim type deal. It's like you have to invent it, then you have to kind of build it, but you kind of got to sell it before it's built. And so there's this tension that's intense of the fact that everybody knows it's not going to work that great in the first release. Even the investors know maybe, but then the point is that then you got to build it again.
Yeah.
And then you got to get new investors, and then you got to sell the whole company before you can really make any money. And so, and the other thing is, a lot of times you're working on, big cash cows. I was in the telecom industry.
Yeah.
There's 200 companies in the world that matter to you. There's fewer and fewer because they buy each other. So you work for 2-3 years, sometimes even more, to land a big account, and then that's your life for 5 or 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of, but in this business, it's like no matter how big a case you might write, it's not going to cover your salary for the year or even, a couple months maybe. It's like you got to get back out there and continually be producing. And so that's kind of new. The idea that if you fall behind, you can't really catch up. In the old job, you'd have slack periods where you could catch up. In this job, it's like, the way I say it is, there was something you were going to do on Tuesday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. and you don't do it, you'll never do it. You'll do other stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going to do then, you won't do. Whatever people you were going to call, you're not going to call them. Because when you get back to your calls, you're probably going to call different people. So
Yeah.
somebody missed out because they didn't get your call. And they're not going to get something they need for their family safety. So I think about that. So that's one thing that's different. And then as far as my role, it's interesting not to have my own team. So to some extent, I still feel that responsibility to kind of set an example and not be a downer for people. I learned some of the training. I don't know if you've got this early in your career to get trained about, the shadow you cast, and you can impact people. Like you're dressed spiffy. That makes people feel good. You come to work with your hair a mess and you don't shave and you look like, you just rolled out of bed at the last, that makes people feel bad. So I think there's that aspect of, okay, you can still be a leader, you can still set a good example, but you can even, do some mentoring. But it's interesting not to have a team. It's interesting not to have to me worry about a lease. It's interesting not to have to buy furniture and talk to the landlord and that sort of thing. And um, so that's kind of relaxing and part of what I was hoping to get from an individual sort of contributor role.
So I guess before I ask you what do you see like being next for you in your career, I want to circle back around before we go any deeper, because I got to ask, so you sent the first text message in the United States. That's kind of mind blowing. So tell us about that. I mean, how would you even know that this is going to be the next big thing on the horizon?
Yeah, it's really, it's funny how I would even know that I sent the first. The reason I know I sent the first is because just there wasn't anybody else doing it. So I was the installation engineer for this little Irish company named Alveston. And, companies get bought and sold, but that core team started in 1990. The first system was put in 92, 93. Think about that company, or what's left of that company, still has a majority market share. So not to bore people with tech, but an email, most people know what an email server is. Well, the phone company has a text message server, and all the messages go through that. And that's where they sit until they get, spit out to your phone, say your phone's off or you're out of coverage. Okay. So that thing that goes in the phone company, they made that. And I was the second US employee, and I just went out and installed one. It was at the Nextel network, then called Fleet Call in LA. But yeah, and that was the company that started the whole thing in 93. It's a lot of interesting stuff to go into that. Maybe that's for another show. Maybe I'll do a show on that. I don't know, but I knew even then, in 93, I was, how old was I? Was I 28? Yeah, I was 28 years old, but I felt it had the capability to change the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got grandmas doing text. Yeah. More people do text than have toilets, watch TV. It really has changed the world. And I thought it could, and I thought it'd be a good career. So I did that for a while, but yeah, I worked for the company that started the whole thing. So
wow. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So what's next for you in your financial services career? I mean, you're going to stick with it or what? What do you see coming up next?
Yeah, I say people, if I think about it too much, I get mad. I haven't been doing it my whole life. I like it that much. But I think that what is just that education. We have a big problem in this country is that, nobody has a pension. Nobody thinks about retirement or savings, or if they do, they don't really understand it. Mm-hmm. You don't tend to succeed at things you don't understand very much. And most of the financial industry is interested in, big dollars and management fees and things like that. I mean, I understand it's a business model, but who's going to teach people what they need to know? They're not learning it in the school. Their parents don't know. Yeah. And it's not worth anybody's time to do it. That's one of the things that I like about my current job is that we help people. Mm-hmm. And so I think could get that education and keep going with it so I can help people more. And the more successful I am, the more people I can afford to help. And I think that's big too, is that, you can spend a certain amount of your time with various sizes of cases and opportunities. There's a lot more people here and they need just as much help. The greats, that we listened to, the Van Millers and everything, mm-hmm. really had an impression. And another ripple effect, I'm going to tell you, emphasize education. So those first 2 months, I listened to everything that they were saying. And I was listening to the greats, right? And one of the first things was, remember Van Miller says that the guy saved his career by teaching him take care of everyone, the same, whether or not you're going to make any money on it.
Right.
And I so far have done that. I do that. I absolutely do that. So I think, but the more successful you are, the more you can kind of start multiplying yourself with like helpers and assistants and things like that. And the more efficient you get, and the more you can help more people. And that's what I want to do. Okay. Right. So, and that, so just keep on going. That's what I want. I want to be number one in the country. I'm number one in Michigan now. I want to be number one.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. You said something, and part of the recent transition I've had in my career is because I want to focus more, maybe even exclusively, on the retirement planning market. And whether that's working with a guy who's 65 years old and he just retired and now he needs a spend down plan and an exit strategy, and he needs help navigating the descent down the mountain, so to speak, or whether that's a 25-year-old helping them to get started saving for the first time and help educate them. I see that as one of the biggest problems in this country. I just saw a statistic the other day that 1 in 3 Americans have $0 saved for retirement. And how many more, all they do is they just put money into their 401k, because it's kind of like the default plan. Now, you know me, you know I don't like 401ks, the traditional pre-tax 401k, because of the fees and the facts that tax rates are probably going to be way higher in the future, the fact that it's a lousy distribution tool, and the sequence of returns risk and all that stuff. We don't need to get all technical into that stuff, but that's what people do. Like, they either have nothing, or all they do is a pre-tax 401k, and they're either probably not saving enough, or they're probably maybe saving too much in that vehicle. That's where I see as a huge opportunity for my business. What do you see on the horizon? Where are the big opportunities in your business? Would you echo what I just said, or do you see additional things? Like, tell me about your business model and where do you see it going in the future?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, I'm going to take a step back. The biggest thing is education for myself and education for the populace. And so we're going to talk about my radio show. So, but
we're going to get to that. That's next. That's next on my agenda here.
So I think, focusing on the education, and I'm going to follow the market. I'm not ready to say I'm going to go after retirement. Although what you just said is true, and I'll probably do that. I'm not ready to say I'm going to go after estate planning or young people or professional markets or anything like that. I'm more going to go after getting a very well-rounded education to be able to help people wherever they're at. And the market's going to find me. The people that I have an affinity for are the people that are going to take my appointments and listen to me more and do what I ask them to do. And then, if I grow into something where, I have some people and a team, then they'll grow their market. And so then,
right.
Then growing my market isn't as much me figuring out how to reach it as me hiring somebody who can figure out how to reach it. And then that sort of thing. But,
well, you and I
it's
both
all about education, though. Education of myself,
yeah.
Education of the folks. So that's, yeah.
Well, you and I both have a passion for like the protection element in a person's financial plan. We're both big believers in things like long-term care insurance, disability insurance, and especially life insurance. Whether it be for a young family or whether it's for a guy who's 55 years old and he still has 10 years left to work. Like he has a lot of like different things that he's guarding against. And I remember like in your early days when you and I were working real closely together, doing a lot of joint field work, I don't know if you remember this, but you told me at some point, we were sitting there like doing an analysis with a guy, and a lot of that has to do with education. And I looked him in the face and I said, you need $1 million of life insurance. And I remember you saying like what an impact that made on you, because I could go through some numbers and just tell somebody that real casually, like to their face, and show them why, and why, $1 million might sound like a lot of money to some people, but look, if a guy makes $80,000 a year and he's got 20 years left to work, I mean, he needs to replace his earning power for his family, right, his kids, their college, their mortgage. If he wants his wife to stay home, like if something happens, I mean, in your line of work, the people that you see on a daily basis, do you see that as another big opportunity? Like, are most people underinsured? Like,
oh, I think so. And again, it comes to education. Like I'm shocked at the number of times I walk into a home, and certainly for young people, but even for middle-aged people, and start talking about these, safety net things and life insurance, and so much new information, like they've never thought about it.
Yeah.
Like nobody's ever told them about, temporary insurance, permanent insurance, how affordable temporary insurance is when you're young and healthy, or even not so young, but healthy. And, you know, there should be somebody on some national forum that's telling everybody all the time, if you're young and healthy, get as much life insurance as you can possibly afford. You won't regret it. And of the right type, from the right guy, or whatever. You know, I think that's the interesting thing about our business is how many people realize that they can capitalize on their youth and their health financially,
Right.
as a person with dollars to spend. You know, I think that's amazing, and I think that's sort of the, you know, people are always skeptical. They're like, oh, those numbers, you know, everybody says, you know, and they don't understand why. And when I can explain to a healthy person why, it's like, well, let me just tell you, if you know, were, you know, 200 pounds overweight and had dipsy-doodleitis and taken 14 different types of medications, then you couldn't do this. This would be a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're healthy, you know, then, you know, in one generation, a young, healthy person in this country with the right type of life insurance can start a legacy of financial security for their company. And I think that's incredible, and everybody should know it, and it shouldn't be up to you and me to have to find them one at a time to tell them.
Yeah.
That's
That's a perfect segue into the last topic that we have today in these next 10 minutes or so. You've got a big project coming up, something exciting. You were just telling me about it. I'm dying to learn more. I'm even interested in like how I can get involved. Tell everybody what's on the horizon for you.
Well, some of it I can't really fully reveal, but the long story short, I'm gonna do a radio show, but I can't tell you who. I can't tell you where it's going to be distributed, but I'm going to do a live radio show first. We're not going to go live first for compliance reasons. We're going to put 4 or 5 shows in the can.
Okay.
And we're going to get distribution in the podcast form.
Okay.
And you know, there's taped radio formats, but once we get it going, it's 4 10-minute segments with 20 minutes of commercials, and we're going to do a radio show. And you know, it's something that it's been out there cooking, you know, in the back of my head for years. Friends telling you to do it, you know how that goes. So I'm just going to pull the trigger. When I look at what it costs just to get the basics,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I spend more than that on print advertising every year. So
wow.
And I think, you know, ultimately, I think it can be a vehicle for this education that we're going to talk about. You know.
Okay, so when we talked the other day, I mean, we kind of you were telling me like you were trying to figure out like what the theme of the show is going to be, and I was asking you like, is it going to be financial education? And you thought maybe it's going to be more service oriented, or you mentioned like there's going to be 4 10-minute segments, and I asked you like, are they all going to be different? Is maybe one going to be like community service and impact, and then maybe have a financial block in there? Like, so have you decided exactly, you know, what you're going to do yet, or is that still kind of like in the works?
Well, I'm still working on it, but I'm pretty sure I want to go deep rather than broad.
Okay.
You know, car talk for life insurance. You know, I know it sounds kind of hokey, but you know, when you're out there selling life insurance or any sort of financial product,
Mm-hmm.
all right, you are right at the center of so much drama every day. You're talking about life and death.
Yeah.
You're talking about success and failure. You're talking about relationships and healthy relationships. You're talking about families. I mean, what a privilege, for a second on that side, to drop yourself, and a responsibility, awesome response, to drop yourself in the middle of everything that's important to a family, unpack it in an hour, put it back together, and get somebody to make a decision about something, and then start that relationship and keep that updated.
Yeah.
There's so much drama there, I think, and through the eyes of not just the salesperson, but also the family or the person. And so I want to feature these life stories, and I want to come up with a compliant way to do it, where we're talking to the guys that are out there that are hitting, you know, the financial professionals and also the clients. And like, okay, you never believe what I ran into today, there's, and then you go into it. It's like they've been, married 10 years, they just adopted a child, and the mom's sick, and they have all this money here, and what's their main issue? Their main issue is they're working different shifts, and so they never have time to talk about anything. And think about the puzzle that is to solve, to help people get the information they need and the stories and in a sense, it's the same thing over and over again, but it isn't. And I think it can be compelling radio to listen to the decisions and the decision process and the relationship building process that occurs around people making these important life decisions. Maybe I'm all wet. Maybe it'll just be, I don't want to, I want it to be something that, a lot of, the typical business show is you got the CPA and you got the lawyer and you got the real estate person. And I know all that's great. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do something that is fun and innovative and take a shot. And I don't know. I mean, I'm going to pay for the airtime. I might end up doing it about gardening. Okay.
Well, it sounds like
I'm going to take a shot at going deep on some aspect of this business and make it fun.
Well, it sounds like you want to share real life stories. So have you kind of decided how you're going to do that? Like you mentioned kind of like guests, like, are you going to maybe have like other financial professionals be guests on your show on like a week to week basis? Maybe have different people share their experience, or maybe have a recurring person you do it with?
I think so.
Would you ever have a client on the show to tell you?
Okay. Oh yeah.
So like you're pretty open-minded to all of these different things and how it could impact the listeners.
Right. Because when you hear somebody that's earnest and educated talk about what they do, how many times you've been to a dinner party and you meet some person and they're whatever, they're a biologist or they're a lawn care guy or they're but they're earnest and they really know their stuff. Okay. And you get them talking about what they know and how they learned it. I mean, good grief. That's such an exciting experience for me. I don't care what you do. So it's more the quality of the person and the richness of that person's experience and their ability for me as the interviewer to get that out of them, because there are very few people that can't talk eloquently if they're relaxed about something that they know and care about very well. And I think that's compelling radio.
But it's that person with the passion, and not everybody has that, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you being the kind of guy you are, like you attract that into your life, like you attract other people to you. So there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to have some incredible guests, because you had mentioned to me about me coming on the show and doing some stuff. Which that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Not only that, but all of my colleagues now, all of them would be every single colleague that I have, I feel would make compelling radio if if I as an interviewer can grasp the skills to be able to pull those stories out of them and talk about it that way. So
that's amazing. I mean, the impact that you're having on the community, in your company, with your clients, and then now going to put together a radio show where you can educate people in the area and give them different perspectives from different guests. I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, you're in the Lansing area. I would certainly advise like any practicing Catholic, whether they're a member or not, or whether they're just in the community, to seek you out and enlist your help for their financial planning, insurance planning, retirement planning. So with that said, as we wrap up, people watch this, how do they get a hold of you? You just want to put your phone number or email out there? Do you social media, or do you have a website? Like, what's the best way to get a hold of Brennan Hayden?
The best way to get a hold of me is just my phone number, 517-505-7300. And then also email, it's brennan.hayden@kofc.org, Knights of Columbus. And then my personal email is brennanhayden@gmail.com. So any of those, pretty responsive. And then I have a Facebook page called Days and Nights, KNIGHTS, and that's really for the clients and the parishes and stuff that I serve. So
awesome, man, awesome. And when we're done here in a minute, you should come back to the Facebook page and just like on the first comment, just put your your phone number and your email, like so it's there, so people can just quickly find it.
Oh, okay.
As a comment. So,
all right.
Anyway, man, thanks for taking the time. This has been awesome chatting back and forth. We will definitely do this again, and wish you the best of luck on everything, especially just like this month, like with your sales goals. I mean, you're already at 10 on, really through August 5th. It's morning time of August 6th. So your 20 applications that you submitted before, I mean, you're already halfway there. You could demolish that record if you wanted to. So happy 2-year anniversary to you.
Thanks,
Ron.
Ron. Thank you for having me on. Onward and upward. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, man. No. Oh.